Are you ready to start composting but afraid of all the worms? Or do you live in a tight space and scared you'll have nowhere to put it? Then stay tuned for a clean, easy, and worm-free composting method you can even do in an apartment. Up next on Conscious Living. So we're here on our city rooftop in downtown Chicago with Kathy and Irene from Feed Earth Now to find out if composting in an apartment is possible. Is it possible?
You bet. Absolutely.
You guys have created a system where you can compost, no smell, no drain, no mess, no work.
Right. Absolutely. We didn't really create this. This was a system that was created in the 1970s by a Japanese horticulturist that perfected these specific microbes that ferment food scraps as opposed to rotting it like in traditional composting. Bokashi is Japanese for fermenting organic matter. It's pretty much like a probiotic that we take for our bodies, and it begins the fermenting process. This process is already extensively used throughout Australia, New Zealand, the Koreas, Japan, all the island nations where they don't have landfills. And the whole process is done anaerobically, so that means without oxygen, okay? And that's what prevents the food from rotting, per se, and creating a rotten smell.
So fermentation versus the regular composting method, what's the difference?
Well, fermenting, there's no rotting taking place, so there's no methane or CO2 being produced. So essentially, it's truly a sustainable method of food waste recycling. We're trying to deal with food waste at the point of generation as opposed to carting it off 30, 40, 50, 60 miles to a landfill across state lines in order to just put it in a landfill, creating heat, methane, and food waste is 1/3 of what makes up a landfill.
There's only 2% of food waste that is recycled in this whole country. So anything that anybody can do, whether it's residential or whether it's commercial, every little bit helps and every little bit counts. I was basically looking for something that I could take all of my food waste and recycle it. So I actually met Kathy at a leadership program, and she spoke about her company. And so afterwards I tagged her and I said, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about this process? And I was hooked basically, and I told her, you know what, I'm gonna buy a system, I wanna try it. And for me, that was it. My husband, he saw what was happening. He takes the garbage out to the curb. Now it's happening once a month or once every 6 weeks versus every week. We don't generate the flies that we used to because there's no food waste in there.
Now what about the worms? The worms.
There's no worms. There's no worms. There's no worms. The only time that worms are attracted to the process is during the second phase of the process, which is actually taking the fermented food scraps and burying it in the soil.
And besides that, a lot of people are quite frankly, they're freaked out by worms and the thought of worms and the thought of being in the same room with worms. So this will be a good thing for them.
You're basically going to be amending the soil when you bury your food waste. So what you'll have after about 20 days is you'll have soil that's got a pH of about 6.5. So your phosphate, potassium-rich, nitrogen-rich soil that you can basically plant anything in. All right, so basically what you're gonna do is, like traditional composting, you're going to collect your food waste. I do mine in a big bowl by the sink for about 24 hours. And then once I have a pile of food or a bowl of food, you're gonna go ahead, you're gonna grab your bucket, go ahead and open it up, and you've got a pressure plate on the inside. So you're gonna take your pressure plate out, and as you can see, I've already got some food waste in there, a little Bokashi spread on there, and you're gonna go ahead and dump that in. Yeah, there we go. So once you've got your food waste, what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna take your Bokashi, and you're gonna sprinkle about a tablespoon or 2. So once you've sprinkled your Bokashi on top, you're gonna basically take your pressure plate, pop it on top. This is important because it's fermenting, so the pressure plate will just keep adding pressure to the food when it's sealed up. But you just give it a little push down, and then take your gamma lid. Gonna go ahead and seal it up, and then you're ready to go. All right, so when you drain your Bokashi bucket, you're gonna wanna just take your tap, open it up, and you can already see the liquid gold coming out, or Bokashi tea. This can go straight down your drain.
You can collect it like this. You can mix it with water, 1 part Bokashi tea to 100 parts water. Just put it in your watering cans, your flowering cans. It's great.
It's awesome, actually. And the beautiful thing of it is that once you bury it, as you go back to your traditional, like your first bury spot, what you'll find is that once you dig it up, you're gonna have tons of worms in the soil. So that's the good news. The worms stay outside, where, in my opinion, is where they belong.
Exactly.
So yes, it's a very simple process.
Thank you.